Hello, it's Jim Powers with another Hobie Tandem Island sail. This time it's an instructional video going a deep dive on how to navigate shoaling inlets between the bays and the Atlantic Ocean. We're going to be looking at some charts, taking a careful look about how to use the charts to navigate the shoals. We're going to take a look at some aerial shots, looking at the Corson Inlet and some different paths for navigation. We'll briefly touch on the sail from Sea City to Corson Inlet, and then we'll include some videos showing boats navigating Corson Inlet. So sit back and buckle up. We're going to get into the deep dive here on Corson Inlet. Let's take a closer look at Corson's Inlet. Just to get you oriented, we're looking at Little Egg Inlet, the Heatherford Inlet chart. This is a navigational chart 12318, and it basically shows the Jersey coast facing the North Atlantic Ocean. So we have the Atlantic Ocean out here, and we have Corson Inlet right here. Just to get you oriented, we have Atlantic City here. This is Sea City here, Avalon, Stone Harbor, Wildwood. These are the towns along this Jersey shore. What we're going to do is go a little bit deeper and show Corson's Inlet, which is right here. And we're going to zoom in on another chart, and in just a minute that will give a little more detail, but I wanted to just give you overall orientation. So we're going to look at navigating the shoals here with a Hobie Tandem Island. We'll take a look at some of the Corson Inlet breakers from above, from an aerial shot. And some of the navigation channels that I took on a sail that originated from Sea City, basically here, out through London Bay, and through one of these inlets through here, beached onto a beach to get ready to go into the Atlantic Ocean, and then shot out through the shoals here to the Atlantic. So that's what we're going to kind of show. I'm going to switch over to another chart that goes into a little bit deeper. So this is now zoomed in on Corson's Inlet, and you can see the various channels here. Again, this is Sea City. There's a public boat ramp that's here, and you can navigate through here through London Bay. And there's really three different routes you can take out through Whale Creek, Flat Creek, and then the main channel, which goes out this way past Strathmere and under a bridge. And I'll point out here, if I can go back to the animation for a second. Just bear with me. So when you come out through the main channel past Strathmere, this is the kind of the route you'll take, and there's a bridge you have to sail under. And you'll notice that this bridge has a vertical clearance of 15 feet, but the Hobie Tandem Island has a mast of 18.5 feet. Well, it turns out at low tide or mid tide, you can just barely squeak under the bridge right here. You have to be careful. Certainly at high tide, you would not be able to do that. You would have to lower the mast and then mast back up, which you pass through the bridge. And then when you get out past the bridge, here's where it gets tricky. If you look out here, these green areas are just changeable, shallow areas where you get breakers. Further out, you get some breakers further out in the Atlantic. And there's generally 3 or 4 general bodies of breakers, which are running up on basically offshore sandbars. And then there's some near sandbars right near the entrance that you also have to navigate. And the key concern here is breakers breaking over your Hobie Tandem Island, which could cause a capsize, or a fail of your Akka bars, which then could lead to a capsize. And then you have pretty strong either inrushing currents when the tide is coming in on a flood tide, or the ebb tide when the tide is going out. And again, you have different vectors here where the water will be flowing out, and it can get up to 2 to 3 knots of flow, which can impede your progress quite dramatically. And that's where you'll need extra power, either through pedal and sail, or in my case, I also add in a small outboard extra kick if needed. Most of the time with the sail, it should be sufficient, but there will be some times where the current is too strong and you need to take precautions. There's a place you can pull up on the beach here briefly to lower the mast to get under the bridge, and then raise it up when you get on the other side. So, and there's a lot of the shallow areas that you really have to be careful of where the water is less than 6 inches deep and some even exposed at low tide. So these are just some of the precautions to take when shooting really any inlet. There's a note here on the chart. Basically, it says that this is not protected by a jetty. There are no navigational markers that are maintained. And you pretty much have to eyeball how you're going to navigate these shoals. And that's where a knowledge of how to do that is critical. This is not recommended for novice sailors. You really got to know how to navigate the shoaling inlets and be careful in these because they can be dangerous. Right, that's a quick look at Corson Inlet. Let's take a look at the Corson Inlet from an aerial perspective. This is a stitched panorama showing the Atlantic Ocean out here. This is the bridge over here that would come out to approach the Corson Inlet. This is the inlet itself, navigating through here. And then in the ocean side, you can see a number of shoaling areas, which are basically submerged sandbars that the ocean swells are causing breaking waves to show up. The other thing to note here on Corson Inlet is that there's no protective jetty like you see in some inlets, like Townsend Inlet. There will be an actual jetty to protect the navigation. Here in Corson Inlet, there is no jetty. You also will see there are no buoy markers showing you how to navigate out. So it's basically an unmarked, unprotected inlet with shoaling waves in the sandbar. Pretty typical for most inlets. On this wide angle panorama, this is the barrier island looking down towards Seal City and Strathmere here. So this Atlantic Ocean out here. And the point to make is that with the changing tides, the changing weather, these breaking sandbars that you see here are move around a fair bit. And when you come in and out of inlet like this, you really got to pick your path, and it can't be a predetermined path. You really got to use your eyesight to navigate. As on this particular day, it was almost dead calm, but there's still breaking waves coming in through here. And you can see there's a number of different paths that you can navigate. That's one. Another possible path is this lower branch heading more southerly direction. And then some folks actually take this middle path, cut through between these two, and then head out. So there's a number of different approaches that you can take to navigate Corson Inlet. And you just got to be very aware of the tides and, most importantly, the currents. If you have an outflowing current and you're trying to make this pass here, the flow of the water could take your boat into these shoaling breaking waves. And same when you come in from the ocean through the inlet, you got to be aware of which way that current is flowing. And if you get into trouble, which way will that current take you? So these are just some of the things to consider when you're navigating shoaling inlets, no matter where they are. And in this particular, this is just a Corson Inlet as an example. So let's take a little bit deeper dive in the next couple of shots. All right, so let's take a look at a boat navigating the same Corson Inlet. So here we have a power boat working its way out through the inlet. So you have the ocean over here, and you have the bay side over here. And you see he's revving up the power to work his way through the current. And you can see some of the breakers here in Corson Inlet. So let's just follow him along. Aerial view, of pivot here in a second. They gave you a little bird's eye view of Corson Inlet. So here you see the boat heading out. You see the waves on both sides of the passage here. You also see another boat here taking the inside passage, and this one's taking the outside passage, kind of heading straight east. You can see a number of, this is all a shallow pan of sand out here. You can see where the breakers are on both sides, and it's even shallow in here, but enough to navigate. Here, this boat just cut through the shoals and is making its way inbound, and this boat is making its way east out to the Atlantic Ocean here. So you see there's a little gap in the shoals here, and you just got to use your eyes to pick out when to make your cut and which the best way to navigate for your individual boat. These are two examples with power boats, and if you're in a sailing kayak with not as much power, you need to take some extra caution and be aware of which way the current is pushing you across these shoals. From the air, you can kind of see the sandbars underneath here, currents flowing out, waves are coming in, and so you have the counteracting waves that are breaking on the sandbars. So this is just a look at one example of how to navigate a shoaling inlet. And again, this is just a small power boat here, but if you're in a smaller kayak, the current flowing out here can be 2 knots, 3 knots. And if you're just paddling, that can be a challenging endeavor. You need a little more power to cut through. So this boat's going pretty fast through the water, but it's not really making that much progress over the ground from a GPS coordinates point of view. So that current is very important, and you really need to pay attention to it, as well as where these shallow areas are. All right, so he's powering up here, and he's making his way, and you think he's going to turn to starboard and head underneath the bridge over here. And this is Ocean City on this side. So this is Corson Inlet State Park on the right. So these are just some examples of how to make it through the shallow shoaling inlets. You need to be careful and understand your options, but you can do it safely, just with the appropriate cautions and good sailing techniques and some extra protection. And in my case, the Hobie Tandem Island provides sail power, pedal power, and I have a small outboard on it also to get you out of a tight situation, primarily from currents in these inlets. This shows the bridge in Strathmere. And again, the Hobie Tandem Island, I normally sail through either here or over here to get the maximum height. The height on this bridge from the water to the underside of the bridge is 15 feet at high tide, and the Hobie Tandem Island mast is 18.5 feet. So this can only really be navigated without having the bridge operator open up the drawbridge. It can really only can be navigated at low to medium tide to get underneath this bridge. And you can see some of the shallow areas in the inlet here that you have to consider. So the normal path would be to navigate back through this channel here to work back towards CL City. And then here, again, this is a very calm day, but you can get some pretty strong currents back in here also. And this is just another view of the Strathmere Bridge and Corson's Inlet. Again, where I normally navigate here is to go through this opening or this opening at mid to low tide to fit a Hobie Tandem Island mast, which is 18.5 feet. I normally only have about 6 inches of clearance at mid to low tide. So there is a drawbridge here for larger craft, larger sailboats. I generally do not use that. You can see it gets quite shallow on some of the other parts where you will run aground. It's only maybe 6 inches deep in these shallow areas that you can see here. Just show some of the back bays. There's other channels that you can navigate through here. But this is looking at the bridge here heading to Strathmere in Corson Inlet. And in the background, you can see some of the shallow areas that you have to be cautious about navigating. And I would normally sail down through here, out through the bays this way, work your way back to CL City. Again, Atlantic Ocean out here. And see the beaches of Strathmere along the background here. So a good view to get you situational awareness of what this looks like if you're not familiar with it. a fun place to sail, fun place to relax. And again, these are the inlet right here with the breaking waves over the shoaling areas of Corson Inlet that you have to be cautious with when you're navigating out into the Atlantic.